Hello, dear friend. This is Cardiac Radio. Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m. with Open Light. Yes, we're here at Cardiac Radio to nourish our souls and to share the teachings that make us stronger, reframe our priorities, make us feel children of God, right? Today we had so many beautiful programs, and here we are, another program, this time based on the book Open Light. The book Open Light is certainly for us a book that brings teachings that maybe we haven't paid attention. So several spirits like Emmanuel, Maria Dolores, Humberto de Campos, Jair Presente and others bring to us teachings that will be opening our minds and hearts for greater feelings of the positive. In our introduction today, we need to talk about how important it is to do our share and to care for one another, right? Sometimes in the daily life, we're so busy that it seems like we don't, but it's important that we care in our minds by saying prayers. Even if people don't know we pray for them, but we decide to pray for them. And sometimes people cannot sleep. That's okay. Mentor Joseph says, you cannot sleep? Do something useful. Pray. Chico Xavier used to do this. He would pray for the neighbors, the family members, the people at work, the people who requested prayers, and pray, and then you pray so much, you will gonna sleep. You will sleep. You write it down. It's a great technique, great remedy against insomnia, which is so common nowadays. The second thing is whenever we have an opportunity, validating each other's feelings, encouraging each other to do the good. After all, you and I are equally loved by God. You are as important to God as I am, and vice versa. So it's important that we cheer up one another, right? And today, talking about cheering up, we have Maria Dolores. Let me just say some words about Maria Dolores, shall we? I'm going to say here, Maria Dolores. I'm going to read just a few words about her. One second. Here it is. Maria Dolores, she was actually named Maria de Carvalho Leite. She was born on September 10th. I know some friends here who watch this program were born September 10th as well. September 10th, 1901, in the city of Bonfim de Feira, in the state of Bahia, Brazil, same state as Divaldo Franco was born. She became a teacher when she was just 15 and taught in schools in the capital of the state of Bahia in Brazil, Salvador, the very city where Divaldo Franco lives. And she taught many generations, so she's deeply connected with education. In 1940, she got to know of Spiritism. She was already married to an Italian man named Carlos LaRocca. And they didn't have children, but they adopted 6 daughters as daughters of the heart. And it's beautiful. They talk about the relationship, how loving she was. For 13 years, she collaborated by writing with her pseudonym. She wrote poetry. She loved poetry. And She was famous for her poetry, though she wrote it under her own pseudonym as well. In 1947, when she was in the city of Salvador, she helped her husband administrate a coffee shop and a publisher at the time. She belonged to the Legion of Goodwill in Brazil and did lots of good works. She was a pianist. She used to paint, to sew, and to cook, and helped an orphanage in Salvador as well. It's funny because she also became a collaborator in Divaldo Franco's Mansion of the Way, because the Mansion of the Way was founded in 1952. She helped by giving some of the utensils, some of the plates that they had to use in the orphanage at the time, etc. She discarnated in 1958 due to pneumonia. Her husband was in Italy when she discarnated. A few years later, she started sending poetry from the spiritual realm through the medium Chico Xavier and also Divaldo Franco. The Brazilian Spiritist Federation published some of her books, and there were 31 years in which Maria Dolores wrote several messages through Chico Xavier. Emmanuel, when he was prefacing her works, he says about Maria Dolores as a devoted worker of the eternal good, an interpreter of Jesus, an abnegated soul, a loving sister, a dear sister, a poetess of life, a messenger of spirituality, a devoted sower of the good, a sister and companion in the works of the greater life, a sister and benefactor and the poetess of the superior spirituality. So I'm giving you some feedback about, who she is, because we have already spent one day in this Hope and Light study sessions getting to know of her poetry. Now we're going to talk about another poetry today. It's Sister's Talk or Fraternal Talk. So she's talking to us as a sister. I think we cannot take it for granted. She's really embracing not only Chico Xavier, who psychographed this, but all of us. She really cared. And she knew you would be reading this one day, that I would be reading this one day. And she wrote it thinking of the future readers. Are you ready? Listen to her loving message. Open our hearts and feel how many people care. Friends, how many of you would like to help people out? I think all the ones that I see here, John the Rose, Sol, Rihanna, Sunshine, and so many others, you want to help. Now think about the spirit that is ahead of us. They also want to help. So let us really validate our effort by feeling what she's saying. Okay? Right? Shall we? Sister's Talk. She says to us, so sister, do not be afraid in the path where you renew yourself. Before the crucible trials of the world constraining you, by the compass of faith, you already know how and where the obligation hides the bonds of duty. Go ahead and fear not. The cruel phrases you hear, slander, sarcasm, struggles, seeking to destroy you, these poisons of the road Mixtures of darkness and slime disappear as a whole in you focusing on serving. If incomprehension bothers you as much as sorrow may hurt you, endure, forget, forgive in the efforts you engage. Those who elect in silence the support of each day become bridge of harmony for the service of peace. In the home that heaven gives you, confidence awaits you. If the gall of intrigue reaches you, as suffering to overcome, convert the path of shadow in invitation to tolerance, and erase offense and distance for the victory of love. So, sister, never forget that the earth is a school. What ails or consoles are always lessons of light, difficulty, and heartbreak. From the bitter hours mean outlets that in Jesus connects. I know, it's so beautiful, right, Rita Di Cassia and friends? I know you may be asking, since it's poetry, and Leon Denis says in the book Spiritism in the Arts that poetry is music. It's like written music. You may be asking, but Vanessa would love to somehow listen to it in Portuguese. You want it, we'll give it to you. I'll open right here now because I think the way she sings this conversation with us is phenomenal. So let me open here and read for you the very words. It's so beautiful. She says, conversa de irmã. And I'll go back to the English, okay? Hold on. Feel the music behind it. It's like the rhymes, they are beyond just a rhyme. Let me share this as a parenthesis, and forgive me for delaying the reading of it all. But it's interesting to note that in the book Memoirs of a Suicide by Yvonne Pereira, Camilo, the spirit author, shares with us that in the spiritual realm, they learn some techniques that are unprecedented, something that Jesus used to do. They say that Jesus at his time used to speak, and with his mental magnetism, he would facilitate the creation of those images of the stories he was telling in people's minds. The same happened to in the spiritual realm with Camilo. Some spirits, and there is a woman named Rita Di Cassia who is reading poetry, and as she reads, it's as if videos, images were being created and people would be seeing it, facilitating the absorption of the educational poetry. So since this poetry is therapeutic, educational, it's valid that we feel it with both languages here, okay? The original and also in English. Right, Nora Brasil, big hug to you. And Dulce. So, alma irmã, não te amedrontes na senda em que te renovas, ante o cadinho das provas do mundo a te constranger. Pela bússola da fé, já conheces como e onde a obrigação se esconde nos vínculos do dever. Segue adiante e não temas as frases cruéis que escutas, calúnias, sarcasmos, lutas que te buscam destruir. Esses venenos da estrada, misturas de treve e lodo, desaparecem de todo se te detens a servir. Se a incompreensão te molesta, por mais que a mágoa te doa, suporta, ouvida, perdoa, nas lides a que te dás. Quem elege no silêncio o apoio de cada dia, faz-se ponte de harmonia para o serviço da paz. No lar que o céu te concede, espera-te a confiança. Se o fel da intriga te alcança, por sofrimento a transpor, converte o fio de sombra em convite à tolerância e apaga ofensa e distância para a vitória do amor. Alma irmã, nunca te esqueças de que a terra é nossa escola. O que te aflige ou consola são sempre lições de luz. Dificuldade, desgosto, das horas amarguradas, significam tomadas de ligação com Jesus. Fantastic! Now back to our beautiful English. We love it. So let's go there. It's a sister conversation. Now we're going to reread each verse and break it down. It's interesting to note first the title, right? It's like sister's talk. So she's talking to us as a sister, somebody who cares. She's putting herself and us at the same level. And this feels good because she's not coming as a teacher, though she is, but she's coming as somebody who is side by side and understands us. And that feels good, right? Right, Adele, isn't that wonderful? I agree. And she says, so sister, don't be afraid. In the path where you renew yourself. So it's interesting to observe that in several moments, she talks about fear. In nature, when we study psychology, neuroscience, fear, we learn it's basic and it's important to feel fear at times because fear protects us. It's like a thermometer saying, oh, something is wrong, protect yourself. Some people say, I'm afraid of being afraid, but don't. Look at your fear and say, oh, sweet fear, what are you protecting me of? Talk to fear because this fear has a voice of defense. I'm not saying we're going to enable you, encourage it, but we can't resist because it's natural. Our physiology is built to process fear. So it's okay to feel afraid when it pertains to real protection. But when this fear is generated by imaginary scenarios, how often we are afraid of being rejected, how often we are afraid of not being approved of, how often we are afraid, and that fear may lead us to bad choices. So that fear, we need to talk. We're talking to this fear right now. Maria Dolores is helping us. This technique is very modern. Let us use her words to talk to our fear. She's saying, fear, don't be afraid in the path that you renew yourself. So she's already giving an antidote so we can reframe it all. She says, this path that we are is for renovation. Well, of course, we are reincarnated, right? We're here to reinvent ourselves. God made us co-creators saying, go there. You can do better because you're my child. You're the heir of my universe. God is abundant. The universe is yours and mine because we're heirs of God. And he's saying, come on, I believe in you. You can do better. But of course, there are tests, trials. Well, but what's the big deal? It's funny because some people behave like those resistant students. They go to school, they don't want to do tests, they don't want to go through exams. But then, if you don't, what's the point of being in school? We need them. So, she's saying, before the crucible trials of the world constraining you, don't be afraid. And she says, use the compass of faith. It shows us the north. The compass shows us the directions, the north. So we know where the north is. What is the north? Our guiding model pointed out God. And you already know how and where the oblation hides in the bones of duty. So she's saying, like a student, we need to sit down, apply ourselves. Don't escape, friends. Many people escaping their obligations, giving excuses. It's too hard. Breathe in, be kind to yourself. Talk to your inner child. When we are adults, we're the ones to soothe ourselves. So talk to your inner child and say, I understand that you're afraid. I understand that you think it's hard. But come on, you have a guardian angel. You're not alone. We need to face our duties. Let us fulfill them with love, because one day we'll have other duties. And may we transform our duties in duties of the heart, right? Like, for example, you're going to wash the dishes, do the laundry, take care of somebody who is old and is your family member. Instead of saying, oh, here we are again, oh my gosh, I can't believe, we're going to say, okay, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to think, thank God I can be of help, because there are many people who are in the hospitals and they wish they had health to do the dishes at home. There are people who are in prisons thinking, oh, I wish I could go to work. And we wake up, go to work, feeling like we're being dragged to work, celebrating I am able to work, because there are people who want it. They can't. It's for several reasons. I'm not saying we should celebrate because they can't, but we're celebrating because we can. So we can go and help them as well. Right? Go ahead, she says. Fear not. Again, she repeats, don't be afraid. Talk to your fears. She says, if your problem is because people slander you, criticize you, bully you, like Bartholomew. Bartholomew. This is in chapter 8 of the book Good News by Humberto de Campos through Chico Xavier. Boa Nova, the book. In that book, which we already studied here years ago at Kardec Radio, right? And you can still find the study sessions there on YouTube, SoundCloud, and here on Facebook. We have the playlists. So it's important for us to know, right? That Bartholomew, who was one of the disciples of Jesus, he had these problems. He came to Jesus and said, my brothers bully me. My colleagues do too. My father, he's also cruel to me. The phrases they say are cruel, seeking to destroy me, exactly what she's saying here. And what does Jesus say? Bartholomew, rejoice, because these teachings are pointing to hope, right? Be courageous. And Maria Dolores joins Jesus and tells us, these poisons of the road, which are mixtures of darkness and slime, they disappear as a whole if you focus on serving. So she's giving us the secret. People tell bad things about you. Focus on serving. Serving in the sense of working and being really useful. Because some people, they work, but they're not really useful. Huh? Like Emmanuel was saying the other day to us. There are heavenly prayers, infernal prayers. There is good work and bad work. We're talking about the work that generates the good service. Sometimes people say, but I want to help, but you're not helping. To help, to be effective, I need to see how useful that is. So she's saying to us here, don't be paralyzed by what people say. Many spiritists I've come to know, they say, I'm not going to go to that center. I'm not going to go to mediumistic meetings anymore. I'm not going to go this and because people said this to me, because people don't acknowledge me, because, oh, really? And that's the excuse. Believe me, what people do wrong doesn't justify you stopping. You're doing the right. Let them speak. They spoke about Jesus. You think people are going to get us? We can't be more than Jesus. Of course people are going to slander us. Who cares? That's their problem. It's a mixture of darkness and slime in their lives. The problem is if we do it. Are we slandering people? Are we bullying them? Being sarcastic? Creating obstacles? No. Great. But if others do, we pray for them. And we keep on doing what we gotta do. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but with a little more effort, the good spirits help us. And that's so natural, and it shall pass. Then she says, if it's not enough what she's saying, she says, if incomprehension bothers you as much as sorrow may hurt you, endure, forget, and forgive. So that's the solution. Endure meaning keep on doing it. Look at Saul of Tarsus when he turned into Paul of Tarsus. Man, people cast stones. They were brutal. They couldn't understand him. He kept on doing it for 30 years, and one day, la-da-da, he made it. He ascended. He met the Christ. Joy to the world, literally. Right? Like Livia with Emmanuel, Publius Lentulus. She was misunderstood. People were slandering her, and yet she kept on fulfilling her worshiping duties of the heart. She was faithful to the husband that couldn't understand her. She kept on devoting her life to others, cherishing the teachings of the Christ. She met Jesus. People thought she was crazy. And one day, she ascended so high, she never reincarnated on earth again. Wow. And many people are thinking that to buy that ascension, they need to create a hospital, this and that and the other. Read the novels. We don't need to be famous to be A+ with Jesus. A+ in our conscience, right? You want to be A+? Because those who get A+ with honors, they ascend. What do we need to do? Be famous? No. Do works that people are going to recognize? No. Be aligned with our divine conscience. which is within ourselves. Question and answer 621 of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec. Where are the laws of God written in our conscience? So if I am A plus in this alignment, great. Even if the world says, you're wonderful, but deep inside I'm like, not quite. No A plus reincarnation, right? So doesn't that bring relief to your heart, friends? To know that you don't need to expect on anybody's vouching for you. It's up to you. It's up to me to really grade myself in the conscience and say, yeah, I suffered, I sacrificed, but you know what? I loved so much. That's our goal. I know it's not easy, but that's our goal, right? Right, Rihanna, we are reaching for A plus through love and serving. I agree with you. Yes, right, Rihanna. Beautiful works, bringing Jesus in the home in the Africans at Spiritus Messe. Good job, Rihanna. Keep it up, right? We are in this network together. So she says, endure, forget, forgive in the effort to engage. Those who elect in silence the support of each day become bridges of harmony for the service of peace. And that's the lesson I confess we need to learn. Silence. And I think Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk, brings a book named Silence for us, telling us about the preciousness of it all. And Jesus, as a master, he actually used silence a whole lot. He wouldn't reply to what everybody asked. He wouldn't reply right away. He would pause, sometimes at length. And sometimes he wouldn't engage in clarifications just because people were puzzled. Because sometimes people don't want to be untangled from their confusion, mental confusion, emotional confusion. They like it. So we have to leave it alone and be there, supportive, right? In the home that heaven gives you, confidence awaits you. Now, this is a word, confidence. Why confidence? Because there is a reincarnatory plan. We don't get married. We don't have children by chance. Even if you got married several times, I tell you that none of those encounters are by chance. Some people say, I shouldn't have met. You know what? Don't regret it. It served its purpose. It's a blessing. If you have a relationship that ended, remember, bless it. Don't curse it. Don't regret it, even if you suffered, because that had a lesson for you. Feel confident that it was needed. Even if a friend you had, something happened you no longer are friends with, remember, don't regret that you put your heart in there. Don't regret even if you made a mistake. Say to yourself, God entrusted me with that opportunity. If I failed, there is a message in the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life by Emmanuel, that is titled Failure. And it says, failure is as important as success is for our evolution. Because it teaches us something. Look at the disciples, he says, Peter's denial. And Emmanuel says, when Peter denied Jesus, he failed. But that taught him a lesson he never forgot. To pay attention to what the lessons Jesus gave him. Because Emmanuel says he was not attentive, he was distracted, he was not focused, and due to that, he failed. So you and I often may miss the mark in our daily lives because we're not listening to the guardian angels, to Jesus, to the calls. We're distracted, buying too much, shopping around and cluttering the houses. Don't do this. And if you're going to give a gift, think, do not clutter people's homes. You know, let us declutter people's homes and give only things that will be useful. Because sometimes we feel like giving gifts just because. Like, for example, we like giving chocolate, but what if the person is diabetic? What if the person is on a diet? You give them chocolate, you're ruining the diet. And you think you're doing great. I know we're being funny here, but we need to be ever more vigilant and conscientious, right? She says, if the gall of intrigue reaches you and suffering is ahead to overcome, be tolerant and erase offense for the victory of love. Never forget that the earth is our school, she says. Okay, so she's saying to us, difficulty and heartbreak from the bitter hours mean outlets that in Jesus connects. So she's saying, whether we're going through difficulty or problems of the heart, frustrations, Jesus will plug in and help us out. You know, he said, I've come to help those who are in need. So when you feel in need, he's closer to you than you ever imagined. Friends, she's saying confidence, endurance, and I'll bring just the beautiful positive emotions, courage, because the antidote, free fear, love, courage, right? And she says, let us endure, forget, and forgive. Practice silence to achieve peace, confidence, tolerance, and at the end of the day, she says, let us not forget that we're in a school. A+, so in the next 24 hours, let us practice being attentive to the lessons of the day, as if we were going to school and the teachers are teaching us. Let us apply ourselves. Ace at the tests, the exams, and go home feeling I'm closer to A+ than I've ever been. Isn't that right? I think so too, right? So, yes, Rita Di Cassi saying only love frees us from pain. Yes. And Rihanna, our mistakes is our teachers. It helps us to know ourselves and be able to humble and change. I agree with you. It's very humbling to know that we make a mistake. And what else can we do but to begin anew? This is hope and light. You're feeling more hopeful? Thanks to Maria Dolores. Now we know more of her and we love her. Thank you, Teacher Maria Dolores, for your loving kindness. And this is Kardec Radio, nourishing our souls. One more program, Hope and Light. A big hug to you. Until tomorrow, God willing.